Okay, so to close on this, the deck obviously didn't perform in those matches, but so we had a loose keep, not bad, just a very loose keep game two against the Grixis deck after Mole game one. So not a great match there. We played against Amulet and came really close to winning. Just like heads up against them. Admittedly, they did Mole to 5 twice, but that's some of like what's going on there. Like their fives were also pretty good, to be fair. Um, we lost to Affinity, having slightly better draws than us on the card, and Soul Artifact, which is not a card that the deck's especially prepared to handle. Um, we lost to a very aggressive twin deck, and the other twin decks are significantly better. As I mentioned in the lead up, I beat a Teamer twin deck earlier. Um, I lost to a Burn deck earlier. The matchup's not great. Beat a Burn deck, beat a Teamer twin deck, and those were not on camera. And then a win against John despite just chucking a game. So I think the lesson to be taken away here is that um, this deck is uniquely powerful in ways that Amulet and Tron aren't at doing the same thing that they're trying to do, which is beat up on the fair decks and offer a lot of power. So I think Amulet and Tron are more powerful than this deck, but going to this tournament, both Amulet and Tron had big targets on their head. And this deck is better against the Blood Moon than Amulet. Um, like there's stuff like Dispel and Chalice Zero and some like weird things that just interact with Amulet in ways that this deck doesn't care about. Ghost Quarter just like a non-entity against this deck. Crumble to Dust like relatively marginal against this deck, whereas it destroys Tron. Fulminator Mage is like beatable. So it really feels like this deck has its spot. And this weekend was a very good spot for it. It was when land combo was good, but there was specific hate for the two land combo decks that exist. And I think that it's like kind of interesting. I mean, all these land combo decks revolve around the same stuff. It's the same Primeval Titan or like Tron land stuff. But it's kind of interesting that you can like re-level the metagame on these decks. And it's kind of, there's not like a lot you can, I mean, like, they all probably die to Infect. I'll give them that. But like, in the big scale of things, like that's all you can really do to them is just go under them, and that's like kind of scary as they keep cutting all the ways to go under them in Modern. Um, it's just kind of interesting what it implies for the end game of like where things end up leading a lot in the format. And I guess like that is a reason that like I'm just gonna say Infect is just not gonna be a deck that leads the format. It's it's very hard for that deck to reach a point where it's just too good because it's still just creatures and spells. Like you're still like putting your creature into play and attacking with it. So there's and Affinity to some extent will always be around. It might not. I guess Opal is like a card that like in theory one day could be too good, but um, like there's probably just always going to be a way to go under these decks. But it's very possible for these decks to find the things that go under them and like just metagame specifically for them. And that's like a once you start reaching this layer where it's like, oh, this week people are trying to beat Tron and Amulet, and they're showing up with Infect and Storm to beat that. Well, I can play a Scapeshift deck that has hate cards for those. Um, it's kind of interesting that you can just like choose your spot of land combo and just like shove along on it. I think that's like an interesting sub game of the format that like there's just a lot of those in Modern that are just like there's a lot of depth to it, and that this is just something that I haven't really like thought too hard about before, but it's very possible to do.